tell you what, clients don't realize that they're missing the boat on some legal issue. If they find something that they think is going to be a way for them to self-cure, they will. And so it's sort of up to us to show them a better answer and to do that in a way that leverages the technology that's out there right now, because the fact that it exists is so open and obvious in the market that we no longer get to put our heads in the sand.
Whitney, thanks for joining me today.
I am so glad to be here, Ashley. I love anytime I get to chat with you. This one's going to be really fun.
Yeah, same here. I appreciate your time. So let's start. Tell everybody who you are. What do you do? We'll go from there.
So I'm Whitney Harper. I'm co-founder of Advos Legal and Advos Pro. Advos Legal is a law firm that is in its 10th year right now. We've just crossed the 10-year mark. We are outside general counsel for growth stage companies. We are physically located in Northeast Florida. And we, right from the start, knew that we were going to do things a little differently. In fact, a lot differently. So we don't bill by the hour. We instead bill on the basis of deliverables. And that frees us up for what we're going to talk about today, which is leveraging technology, getting efficient, delivering better quality because of the tech that we can deploy in our practice, and to have a lot of fun and really enjoy the work we're doing in this AI and tech-enabled era that we get to live in, which is really cool. And then Advos Pro is the business that is kind of the outgrowth of our law firm. A whole bunch of other lawyers have, historically said, I hate billing by the hour, and I know there's got to be a better way. And the practice of law feels like it ought to be more profitable and joyful and have more time flexibility than it does. And we wholeheartedly agree. And so we have, in Advos Pro, done a lot of work to help other law firm owners build practices they love that love them back. So they can sort of have that same experience of a profitable, efficient, joyful practice with the time flexibility that they want.
That's great. Tell me, where do you find you're spending most of your time? Is it Advos Pro, I guess Advos Legal, kind of down the middle? What does that look like?
If it's possible to have 2 full-time jobs, that's really what we're doing. So the law firm is very much still full-time, and we love that work. We have built a practice that we really do love, and clients who we love working with. It's funny, it's a little bit of a speakeasy in terms of our marketing and the approach there. We joke that you kind of don't get in as a client of Advos Legal unless you know the password, and you know the password because someone has referred you to us. And that's a great place to be when you're thinking about marketing and all the things. So really our marketing attention has been on Advos Pro, helping to get the word out. And it's a little bit of category creation, right? Because I think a lot of law firm owners want it to be different, want the experience of lawyering to be different, but they don't actually know that there is a way to do it differently, and that there are people out there who have done it and can help. So the marketing effort has really been Advos Pro and trying to help people understand that that's what we're up to. That's what we're passionate about. That's where we want to grow our mark on the world.
Yeah, so you and Gwen, your co-founder, we should give Gwen a shout out. It seems like you've always been a little left of center or right of center thinking, right? A little outside of the box thinking, which is probably the only way that you are able to create these kind of 2 parallel universes. And I would imagine that outside of the box, more creative or open-minded thinking is how you're able to land, like in this conversation today about AI and technology. Is that kind of give me the genesis maybe of why do you have that perspective? Or maybe why do you and Gwen, the luck that you both come together and you both have that perspective of being a little bit outside the box thinkers. But where do you think that comes from, maybe with you personally or with the brand?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny. When Gwen and I met, I think we knew in the space of one lunch together, like, oh, you're the same kind of crazy as me. When you identify that person who's the same kind of crazy, it's a good thing. Mm-hmm. And I think probably for both of us, it kind of came from the evolution of our careers. We sort of had the same career. We just didn't know each other along the way. But we both had been in big law. So we had had that traditional experience of like, you come out of law school and you think there's a formula of how it has to be. And so for us, we went into big firms and we were billing by the hour and kind of that traditional model. And then we both ended up in in-house roles. So we were general counsel inside of companies. And all of a sudden, like you're plopped into this kind of foreign land where you're like, oh, so this is what happens in the client's office. Like, this is interesting. And it's a completely different experience than how you think about the law as a lawyer in a law firm. In a law firm, you're the product. And so it's really all about like you and how good you are. And yes, it should be about the client. But when you come down to it, like the business focuses on how much you can bill. When you're the lawyer in a business, you start to realize that the point of your role is to facilitate the business achieving its objectives. And sometimes that's by mitigating risk that could knock you off course. Sometimes it's by like finding a way to achieve an objective, getting a deal done or whatever. But it's always about the business's ultimate goal, not just about like, ooh, I won that argument, or how long did it take me to do the thing or whatever. And so that starts to shift your thinking about it. And you start to realize like no one here cares how many hours it took me to do the thing, except to the extent that they care, did I or didn't I get it done by the timing they needed, right? Mm-hmm. And did it or didn't it achieve the objective? They also don't care how well your contract is drafted or your memo is, how thorough your memo is. Did I get the information I needed? Did we get, the contract that the other party would sign and that protects us appropriately? But like, it's more about getting it done than it is about the pride of the lawyer, right? Mm-hmm. And then we both also had roles where we were operators of a business, not the lawyer in the business. So we were like truly the client of the lawyers, and we were running like a P&L, right? So you have P&L responsibility, and it's a whole different set of questions about what do I care to use the legal department for to begin with? When am I going to call them in? And what am I, kind of the ROI? What's the real weight of this issue? How much am I willing to spend to resolve it or to deal with it or to, kind of accomplish this objective? And in our world, we realized that it was really hard to get lawyers to talk about the information we needed to know in order to make good decisions about whether, when, and how to use legal in that role. Because the traditional model just says you call the lawyer, they start the timer, and they go. And what we wanted was this conversation on the front end about, okay, here's the issue I'm trying to solve for. And what are the ways that we could solve it? And what is that going to cost me in dollars and time? And can we do it in a way that's consistent with my brand? And that really realizing that everything you put in front of a counterparty as a business speaks to your brand. And so if I put a contract out there that's nasty, but my brand says, it's trying to say I'm easy to work with, these two things are at odds, or, whatever it is, just all of those things had to come together to be able to figure out what do I want to do. And that was, I think, part of the shift of we have to think of this differently. If we want to build a relationship with our clients where they're willing to call us, we can have the information we need to have in order to do our best work as lawyers, then we've got to shift the model because it can't be about the clock ticking. That's terrifying to a client. And how do we do that? And so I think if you start down that path, of the way we're doing it is broken, and you start pulling on threads, it will unravel pretty quickly. And you kind of can't help but see things differently. So, I think there's a lot of things in our lives. If you go back far enough, you'll pull a lot of threads to find out why we think about things differently. But at its core, it's just that model of thinking. You look at things and go, Like, what's not working here, and what can we do about it? And you pull on that, and so you fix your pricing. And then, if you're a law firm owner and you go, well, okay, I've shifted my pricing, and that's great, but now, like, my client experience is still kind of stuck in the old way. What do I need to fix there? Okay, well, let's go pull that thread. And you're doing that, and it keeps getting better and better. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Why do you stop at that point when it continues? I love the pulling the thread, because then you also are have this counterpart who thinks similarly and who's not afraid to pull the thread. Or maybe if Gwen got a little nervous, then you could pull, like, so you all are both similarly aligned in that. Yeah. And when one pulled and asked questions, well, why? Why? Well, why does it have to be that way? Why does it have to be that way? And you found your way to where you're at now. So not being afraid to do things differently with the evolve of AI and technology and how things are progressing in this industry. You and I sit in this industry from a different position than you, but I would imagine we both hear and feel resistance at the moment. We know that this industry is a little bit more adverse to change. It's just technically how the industry works. It's a big machine. And so it is. It's hard to bring in change and resistance. Why have you all been such quick adapters of the AI or of the technology that's evolving? Kind of give me that first, and then let's actually go into it. Let's talk a little bit about some of the ways that you're using AI technology and automation.
Yeah. I mean, we are gadget junkies. Like, when I was a kid, I loved a good, like, kitchen gadget, right? Like, it doesn't matter where the gadget is. Give me a gadget. I love it. I think in part, there's an inevitability to it. Like, people say AI is coming, and I am forever correcting people. Like, it's not coming. It has been here. Right? Like, it's actually already in your house and in your office.
Yeah.
And if you think it's still outside the door, like, we got a problem.
Yeah.
It's all here. It is not going away. And I think, as lawyers, if you're in a model where billing by the hour is the way, and you start, like, if you can do even rudimentary math, you realize that's a real problem when technology comes onto the scene that is going to make you more efficient. And that is going to not just make you more efficient, but also make clients say, if you can't be more efficient, I'm going to find someone who will, or I'm going to solve it myself. And I might solve it really poorly. But I tell you what, clients don't realize that they're missing the boat on some legal issue. If they find something that they think is going to be a way for them to self-cure, they will. And so it's sort of up to us to show them a better answer, and to do that in a way that leverages the technology that's out there right now, because it's so open and obvious. Like, there's a lot of nuance to use it well, but the fact that it exists is so open and obvious in the market that we no longer get to put our heads in the sand. Yeah. So, I think for us, like, we love to dig into the technology. And once you start getting into it, it's a snowball, right? It just goes quickly. So
it's the string. It's the string that you continue to pull. So let's talk about some of the technology that you're using. Maybe from a high level question first, what is the tech stack that you're looking at on both? Even down to, like, such a common question I get asked all the time from law firms. What is the case management software you're using? And then my question is, what CRM are you using? And it's often, what does CRM mean? So what is that? Just some of the most basic tech stack on both businesses. What are you using?
So, because we build differently, we started with, how are we going to manage, like, what are we going to do with practice management that can accommodate our billing model, right? The foundational aspect of our firm. So we track our deliverables on the basis of points, and we had to be able to, like, house that in our system somehow. We also project manage our work, and most legal, case management, project management, whatever, is not really project management. It's sort of individual, like, matter tracking without any real management to it. We ultimately could not find a system at that time. And maybe there's one now that would accommodate it well, but we couldn't find a system at that time that would work well for us. So we found a low code, no code project management system that actually I think is geared toward marketing. And just built our framework on that, like built what we needed on that platform. And it's a really powerful platform with a lot of bells and whistles, but kind of out of the box, it's a blank canvas. And so we were able to build what we needed there without.
What is the name of that technology?
All right. So we read it before we said it. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Okay.
Note to the company, they really should have tried this out loud. It is called Wrike, W-R-I-K-E.
Okay. Thank you for the disclaimer.
Yeah. I really would like them to shift that. I've had a few uncomfortable conversations with, folks who hear that and go, interesting. Yeah. So the Wrike platform has been a great one for us. It's not perfect, but it has given us the ability to do what we needed to do, to flex, to learn, to grow, and to shift as we discovered what worked really well for us and what didn't. So that's been tremendous. We built our CRM, our sort of, as I mentioned, we're kind of speakeasy marketing on the law firm, right? So we were never really doing lead magnets and the digital marketing funnels and all of that stuff on the law firm side. But we did want to manage contacts, be able to see who we've spoken to and when, who's been a lead, all those things. And even, for purposes of conflict checks and that kind of stuff too. So we've built all of that into Wrike as well. So we project manage, we track our points and deliverables, we track contacts, and every to-do item in our firm lives in Wrike. Whether it's do the expenses, run the financials, run payroll, every to-do item. We don't execute on it in Wrike, but the list of what needs to happen and how to do it, and the even the how, the checklist of go to this system and do this, and here's the tutorial on how, or hey, by the way, don't click that box or whatever. All of that stuff is in Wrike. And so when you talk about the tech stack, it's kind of interesting because one of the things that I talk a lot about with lawyers is I think the first place to start with technology is lowercase t technology, checklists, templates, right? The little things that are that actually turn out to be the big things. If you haven't figured out how you do a thing and how you do it well, forget about what technology, what system you need to use to do it. Just what works well for you. And if you haven't documented that and what are the steps in it and who should do it and when should it happen, you have no business trying to go deploy technology against it.
What a great point of documenting your SOPs to then step back and say what might be best. Because oftentimes when you're meeting with a consultant, I met with a few consultants before we picked our project management software. We use Monday. But before I met with Monday Consultant or Asana or HubSpot, I needed to know kind of high level of the way that the flow in which we do things. That's a great point of don't put the cart in front of the horse, as we would say in Alabama.
Yes.
Figure out the process first. Yeah.
Yeah. So part of it is people are very hesitant to figure out the process first. So they're well, it's not perfect. Yeah, but it is something. It's a starting point. And so one of the things I love about our project management system is we can build a card, a record, a task, whatever, in the system that says, here are the steps for setting up a new client, or here are the steps for sending, even as little as when we have a new client, we send them a welcome gift. Here's how to do that. Mm-hmm. Well, if we change the vendor for a welcome gift, or we decide we want to do that at a different place in the timing, it's a living system. I can go in and change that, right? And I think when I talk about it in terms of checklists and templates and playbooks, right? We build playbooks a lot. Instead of, you used a phrase which I think a lot of people use, which is SOPs. And somehow SOPs, I think, trigger in people's minds like committee meetings and like things that are etched in stone. And like your playbooks, your how-tos, none of it should be that way. Like it should all be, particularly with the pace of how technology is evolving. As soon as you write down, like, click this button, the software vendor and, you know, in the system where you would click the button is going to change that button or whatever, and you're going to need to update it. Fine. Make it easy to update, make it easy to let people know that something has changed, but also make it easy for the person who's doing the thing to go follow the checklist, even like not because they're dumb, but because you want to use their mental processing power on things that require decision-making and discernment. So like, let the checklist take that off your plate and make that part easy so that you can think critically when you need to, and you haven't wasted all of your energy trying to remember how to run the flipping payroll.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you can still use your critical thinking skills here while this checklist is running you down how to do things. Yeah. Are you all using, so for both companies, you're using the same project management tool. Are you using Zapier to connect different things or contact forms in with it?
We're really not right now. I think we have a couple of Zaps set up here and there, but we're not leaning heavily into Zap yet. What we have done is more the automation within that system. So our project management system, like we've built task templates so that if you say, I need to do XYZ kind of project, there's a request form that you put in a couple of basic pieces of information, and you tell it which kind of project, it will spit out the right set of tasks and assign them to the right people. So we have that kind of thing happening, and it will spit them out with the content in them to say, oh, right, here's the how-to for that thing. So the person has the place to go get it. Or here's the login so that you can go, like we do our email marketing in MailChimp for Advos Pro.
Great emails, by the way. I get them all the time. They're great.
Thank you. We have sort of someone, I wish I could take credit for this phrase, someone years ago in my in-house career repeatedly would say, like, we've manumated, right? And I'm like, that is perfect because, Ashley, we talk about like, there are all the buzzwords right now about like AI and automation and are you doing all the things? I'm like, yes. And to some degree, I think some of it has taken it too far where like, I don't need to be fully automated. I actually don't want to be fully automated. I want enough automation to, as we were just talking about, like take the decision points out of the way and let my people think critically. But I want like the stops in the automation so that people think critically. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of fear for lawyers in particular around like, if I let the bots run, I've lost control. And there's a lot of risk in that. I mean, truly, and we should be afraid of that in some way because it's malpractice if you're not watching out, right? Like it's not just like, oh, I'm sorry, I sent out the wrong set of emails to the marketing. Like what? No, it's like, oh, you sent out sensitive client information or whatever. Like that's pretty big. So having like being able to sort of rest in, I've got automation that I feel great about. And I also have built in the stopping points where a human needs to look at it and say, hey, like, is there or isn't there an issue here? Or what is the right next step? And let me go trigger that next step. That's been really good. So like we're using a lot of like the lowercase t technology in the form of checklists, playbooks, templates. We're doing some document automation. The platform that we like there lately has been Westlaw's Practical Law. They have a great like document generator. I think for years, law firms were creating internal document libraries. Like these are our templates. And that frankly was always terrifying to me because I know the law is changing. I know that I'm not going out and researching it every week to find out what has shifted about what should be in this contract or in this argument, whatever. The good folks at Westlaw have an army of people who are doing just that. And so rather than us trying to store these are the templates we like, and then having to go back and update them, I can, in our system, say, oh, you're trying to do a multi-member operating agreement. Here are the forms or the resources that we like in the Westlaw library with a link to them. And those are getting constantly updated. And then some of them, a lot of the things we use, there's a document generator built into the Westlaw platform where it will do the Q&A with you. It'll ask you the questions and it will, adjust the document accordingly and spit out a document that then is, 75% to done. And I need to then go through and make some additional choices and refinements, but I've got a better starting place than I did before. So, kind of thinking about it in that regard, like where can I leverage what's out there, take work off my plate and take risk off my plate, right? I think a lot of lawyers like, I want my own document library because I know those documents. I know they're a good starting point. Well, they probably were 10 years ago when you built that template library. But yeah. I know as well as you do that you're not going out and researching those all the time. And so
right.
Let's take some risk off the table and let somebody else do that.
Yeah.
So, doing those kinds of things.
Yeah. So yeah, you've aged out of those documents over the years. So we've talked about Rike, we've talked about your MailChimp is your email platform. We use MailChimp too. We're a marketing agency. There's more sophisticated options, but depending upon what you need, if we're just doing our firm newsletter for folks, it does the trick.
Right.
And it's very affordable. The metrics are really good. So yeah, we sent out one today, just a quiz just to our current clients is, would you like to move communication over to Slack? You want to keep it email? There's so many little bells and whistles that we're using just for our clients every day to communicate. It's better than me just emailing out 150 people saying, hey, I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does the trick. So other than that, we've talked about Rike, MailChimp. What else are you using? And I know, again, you all are a little different than a lot of the clients we talk to, more like volume. We need to mass produce things. But what other technologies are you all using in different forms?
So there's some really interesting AI. Our firm is transactional, right? We're not going to court. We're not trying to litigate, that sort of thing. So what we have focused on is the technology around document drafting in the law firm, from a practice perspective. We have, I think the team has really enjoyed Spellbook, which is neat. It's a word add-in. So it doesn't, you're not having to go out to some other place to deal with whatever. But you can, in your word add-in, have it tell you if something is missing in your document or suggest language like I need to add in an indemnification clause or I need to add mutual non-disparagement. Can you generate? And it'll generate some language for you. And it will use the defined terms that you're already using in your document or that kind of thing where it's really trying to tailor in. There's some other technology where, for instance, you could take, and I don't think we've leveraged this one as well as, it probably could be, as well as I know it could be. But I also don't think it's as impactful for our firm, our particular practice. But you can give it a data repository of your own documents, right? Things you've negotiated or things you've drafted, and have it pull language from those so that it's even more tailored. It's not just, hey, we would recommend this language. It's actually, here's the language that you yourself have liked over the years for this particular topic, which I think is really interesting. And the AI there, I think the question in my mind is always does it have good information to know that when I drafted it this time, I was drafting for the buyer, but when I drafted it that time, I was drafting for the seller? Does it have enough tags in it? And I think that's where people get hung up. There's a lot of very sexy sounding AI that actually people forget. AI has to be trained. It takes work. And if you're a small shop, the person training it's probably you. So you have to think about the trade-offs around like, what are you going to use? How is it going to benefit you? And what is what's the kind of buy-in in terms of your own time? Forget the dollars, but the time it's going to take you to train it, to use it well, is sort of interesting. The place that I have found that training has really paid off pretty quickly is actually on the marketing side for Advos Pro. And what I've done is ChatGPT, right? Everybody's best friend. My new best friend, Chatty. My Chatty's a little sassy. She's got a little spunk. We have a good time. But I found that it was really worthwhile for me to take the time. Like, we've done a lot of content, right? I have over the years written a lot of blog content. We've been on podcasts. We've done podcast interviews with other people. We have a ton of written, spoken, whatever content sitting out there. And so being able to feed that content into Chatty and say, hey, also, let me tell you a little bit about our ideal client, right? She's a law firm owner. She left big law or left a traditional model because she knew there could be something better. And then she picked her head up one day and went, wait a second, I'm getting exactly the same result, except all the risk is on me and it's all harder, WTF. And she needs some guidance to be able to shift. And we've actually figured out how to do that in an easier way. Yeah. And Chatty, based on that ideal client profile and what you've heard us talk about what we're passionate about and what we can help people do, help me write a blog post, help me get a list of podcast topics, help me think about the outline for a book, right? Like whatever it is. And even like, help me think about what are the product or service offerings that would be most impactful for that client so that we can deliver real value in a way that like our client can consume it and not take her eye off the fact that she still needs to practice law. Yeah. Right? It's incredible.
It is.
And if you give it your own voice, it will give you your voice back, like with a whole lot less lift. And I'm a big fan of it's easier to edit than to draft. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, the AI bots are probably the easiest thing right now to use. But to your point, you have to train it. It is only as good as the input that you provided. Yeah. What will happen is if it doesn't have good input, it will lie to you or give you the wrong answer, or it has to have an answer. It's programmed to where it has to have an answer.
Yes.
So if you're not feeding it accordingly, or your prompts are not solid and you don't know how to prompt it, that's where I've heard some pushback from folks. I'm like, hey, you haven't learned how to prompt it yet. You've got to think in this way to this, to this, to this. And you've got to, the old analogy of like, teachers would do in school of how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Right. So pick up the bread. You really have to think of AI that way. But if you'll take the time to write that out, it will provide in tenfold return. Like one easy way that we're using it is for our proposals, for prospects. I was working on one yesterday with my sales guy of we're going back and forth with this client and wanting to really summarize the marketing strategy in a way for him to understand. But I don't want it to sound like AI wrote it. I want it to sound like me. But I don't have the time to do that. But I've got an AI bot trained to sound like us. And like you said, you've got to continuously feed it. So feed it if you're doing videos. Feed it if you're doing email marketing.
Yeah.
This is me. I wrote this. This is, what I like about this is this. Another thing that you can do is I've been feeding mine LinkedIn post. I really like this LinkedIn post. I don't need any action from you. Confirm that you've read it. And it'll say like confirmed. Right. And there is a memory component to it and it can save it. So yeah, I agree with you. The marketing side is probably the easiest way.
And it's
give you ideas.
Low risk, right? Like I think lawyers need a training ground, right? Like we need a place to go play that doesn't give us fear that we're going to lose our licenses. It's at its core.
Yeah.
We are nothing if not trained to be fear-based as lawyers.
Yeah.
And so own that and find a way to dip your toe in it that is kind of a low threshold for risk or pain or whatever. And that's even like letting it help you build a plan for what to do. If you're a lawyer and you're thinking about, hey, I don't know how to manage my firm's financials, right? Ask the bots and let them help you come up with a cadence for when you should be looking at things, or how, let it give you information about how to think about certain aspects of what's going on in your firm. And I don't mean that you should not find great professionals to support you, but I do mean like the things where you are not an expert, that aren't the core of the work that is your particular genius. Like, why not see how it can support you? Yeah. And then when you pull in the right experts in those areas, like, let's all have a higher jumping off point than ground zero because you just didn't know where to start.
Yeah, I agree. One place I've used it recently is trying to do forecasting. And I fed it my P&L. I fed it my balance sheet. I fed it this internal dashboard that we use showing our utilization rate. I fed it all of that information. I was trying to think everything I fed it. So I said our AGI. So we go my adjusted gross income, all of my COGS, find my AGI per employee. I'm looking at my sheet now. I gave it my percentage of what my salary and benefits is, my overhead percentage, my profit percentage, and I want to do a forecasting model to get me to this percent profit, but I don't want to increase my utilization rate. I could have probably figured that out, but I went to school for marketing. So how long would that have taken? Right. How many calls with my financial team? Like, versus I was able to take this information and I'm bringing this to my meeting next week with my CPA to have conversations. And then we're meeting with our wealth advisor the next week. So I'm coming prepared with all this information that has to do with our rental property, my firm, us, my husband and I, our private life. So it was wildly beneficial for me to just say, what do you see here? What would you suggest? I want to forecast to get to this number, but I don't want to do this. And again, if you feed it enough information, I do believe you're going to be shocked at the return that information that's going to bring back to you.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, you still have to read with a critical eye. It's going to, and it's not going to tell you it hallucinated. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. But that's okay if you still are in it. If you're trying to just let AI like run your life and your practice and like, okay, well, it said this and I'm going with it. You're going to end up being the lawyer who's in front of a judge getting smacked around, or the person who's like, but, Chatty told me I could retire in 45 days. And like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, don't be an idiot about it. But I think it's such an interesting way to start like building that skill set, to let you then build some confidence and a critical eye. I think, there's a weird, I don't know if you've experienced this, Ashley, but there's a funny thing where it's like, I'm terrified of it and I'm not going to use AI, or I'm not going to use this technology, but, I am going to go use the free version. Right. Because I didn't have to pay for it and I'll just use this free version of something. And people are forgetting that like when you use something that's free, you are the product. Yeah. You and the data that you're putting into it are the product. And so you should not have any expectation of privacy, even if they say you do. Like, if you're not paying for it, any data you're putting in, somebody else is getting. That is my gut. So like, pay for the thing, understand, like take a look at where the data goes and how the thing gets trained, or what is if it's AI, what's it trained on? If it's, and like, what are the filters and parameters that it's using? If it's automation, how does the automation flow? Like, understand it well enough to know, is it the right fit? Like, is it answering the issue you're trying to solve for her, or just a shiny object? And like, shiny objects are fun on a Saturday morning, but like, they're a good way to distract yourself from the actual results you want from your practice. If you're not, so.
Yeah. And there's a lot of shiny objects in the marketing world right now. Our SEO manager sent out an article yesterday or earlier this week to our team about, because we're on this interesting side of the spectrum. We get asked of, are you using AI? And you're almost like, I don't know how to answer this question other than answering it honestly, because you can tell some people are like, are you using it? Because if so, I'm not working with you. But then if you're not using it every way, a question I guess got asked recently is, are you using AI video for your firms or for your clients to completely take, I don't want to sit in front of a camera to completely record. And I was like, no, we're not doing that yet. Let me show you a competitor of mine who's a marketing company who is using AI video. It's the most atrocious thing I've ever seen. I don't want you represented that way. There will be a day. There will be a day.
Sure.
But you don't have to.
That's good.
Absolutely. But it's not there yet. And it's not going to be able to give the nuance and the detail and the laugh that we just did. And, oh, but let me stop you, Whitney. Let me think about this. It's not going to be able to do to a certain degree. So yeah, we are using it here. We're not using it here. So it's this interesting like intersection that we sit. But this article that she sent out yesterday was a comment we're getting all the time right now of like, Google search is gone, right? Traditional SEO search is gone. It's like, what are you talking about? Like they're so interconnected. It's not one thing or the other.
No.
And so it was this article about how there's just so much snake oil right now out there from marketing companies that are just like wanting you to just join their webinar and like they have the thing, they have the trick for you to learn about AI. And look, we're joining all of them. We're reading about it, but it's just a lot of snake oil right now even where Google sits on the AI search results, there's very little tracking on that. What does that tell you? They don't know either. If Google's not providing tracking, they're also trying to figure it out. And we don't, there's just a lot of uncertainty now. So just this interesting place in marketing of it can be used in a lot of areas. It can't be used in some areas. It doesn't mean this person was saying this to me if like Google search or SEO is not working anymore. I said, you saying that, I want to hear you clearly, is saying Google is no longer working. They still dominate the marketplace. Yeah. Right. And just maybe not be so rigid with it, but be nimble. Because it's changing so much right now. So it discourages me if I hear lawyers come in and say, I'm not using it for document drafting. Yeah, but why not? Like, that's what I hear from you all are using it a lot on the document drafting side. And that's so smart. It's kind of covering your ass. It's ensuring that your final product is really buttoned up. It still has your voice. You're still able to use your time on it using your critical thinking skills. So that's an easy win, is to use it in the document drafting side.
It makes us sharper. So it's not like, I think when people have that fear-based response, it's because they've gone all the way over the edge of like, you're using it and you're using it only. And it's like the only thing that's drafting. That's not an appropriate use of any of this technology. It's not an appropriate use of a checklist. Like you still have to think. You still, like, people are paying you to be a lawyer. And as the lawyer, it's your job to understand the tools that are available to you and deploy those tools. And I mean, you can make choices, sure. Like choose to do math with an abacus if you want, or to write with a chisel and a tablet. Those are tools that can be used for those jobs. I will choose Excel and, a pen and paper if it must be written down, but I'm probably going to, type on my laptop and speak dictation to my phone or whatever, and then clean up. Yeah. And that's, do I have fewer typos if I write with my pen on a pad of paper? Yes. Is it harder for me to get that message to 100 people digitally? Sure is. Right? I've got to then translate it into something digital. Yeah. I'm likely to have some typos if I type with my thumbs on my phone. Mm-hmm. And I can click autocorrect and fix them. So it's like one of the key concepts in AI is that you need to have a human in the loop. Mm-hmm. Be the lawyer in the loop. Make sure that you are still like paying attention to the input, what the machine you've put it into is doing, how that machine is trained and built to work, whether it's AI or an automation or a checklist or a human. Like, I don't care. Understand what is inside that box, and then take a look at the output and use your superpower, which is a lawyer and I can tell if this is on the right track or not, and where do I need to edit? And I can go double check some sites or double check some facts or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm faster to do that. And I'm probably going to have a better substantive starting point if I deploy the right tools than if I live in the land of abacus and chisels.
Yeah. Yeah. And one final thought here that I would encourage lawyers to, as you're thinking about this, is as you're hiring, this should be at the top of the list, whether you're hiring an associate, intake, marketing, it really should. Working with a vendor, again, like people asking us, you should ask us, how are you using AI?
Yeah.
So ask your vendors. For future employees, that will be one of the most sought after skill set is how are you using it in the capacity? And if you don't understand AI, I can just hear my mom saying to me, like, well, Ashley, my mom runs a small business. How do I know? You don't have to know, but just ask, well, how are you using AI? And if you smell bullshit, it's probably bullshit, but ask them, what tools are you using? Technology. You don't have to understand it. What they're saying, what I mean by that. But you can go research and see what they're saying is bullshit. So that would be another.
That's a great point.
Just little point that I would say is for future hires, future companies you work with, just ask them how they're using it. It's not a yes or no, or it's not a, drilling someone. It's just, hey, out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on it? How are you using it? How could you use it in here at my firm? What are some technologies? What are some things you haven't done, but you think are some good ideas? Again, what you're really looking for is how open to change they are. And that's what you need right now is someone who's very nimble in your organization, who's willing to think outside of the box and willing to try new things.
I think nimble is such an important piece, particularly in the marketing world, right? Because to your point, like Google, is Google dead? Is the LinkedIn algorithm on drugs? Like what's happening here? They're all the good people at LinkedIn and at Google are evolving and changing their product all the time too. And so whatever you thought about what's happening today is probably not true a month from now. And you've got to work with partners who are going to stay nimble, who are going to keep educating themselves about what's going on, what's the lay of the land, and how is that. I think the second part of your calculus that you were recommending there was like understanding how your partner is going to evaluate what makes sense and what doesn't at each stage, right? So like, what are you using and why are you using it? But also, I think a great question is, what have you decided not to do and why? Right? Like, I mean, your example of we're not doing AI video because it is not a good representation of our clients is the best answer, right? Like it's because I'm being protective of you and I see this risk is very different from I'm not using it because it's AI and AI is terrifying.
Yeah.
Right? So
no. It's just, it hasn't advanced enough. And yeah, I hear you. I completely agree. Whitney, I think we could talk for a very long time.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for your time. You're very busy. On top of running 2 businesses, you're a mom of 2. You got a lot going on. So I'm really grateful that you would sit with us and talk today. Tell folks who are looking to get a hold of you, where can they go to find you?
advospro.com or advoslegal.com. It's ADV as in Victor, O as in Oscar, S as in Sam. So Advos Pro and Advos Legal, and I'm on LinkedIn, very active there, Whitney C. Harper. And truly, if any of this struck a chord with anybody and you want to chat, these are some of my favorite topics. So drop me a DM in LinkedIn or shoot me a note. I am always thrilled to talk about advancing the practice with people who are eager to think differently.
Well, Whitney, I appreciate your time. It was great to see you, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Really fun.